Hello everyone, it's Marion here, and this is my kitchen today because it's too wet and windy to use the greenhouse for sowing the seeds. So Claire is joining me in a moment because we're going to look at how I can sow and show you how to sow some seeds, and today we're concentrating on herbs. On the website there will be a 2-page document about herbs to grow and enjoy. The things that I use in cooking and in salads and in my main cooking, but there are loads and loads of herbs for everybody to look out for and enjoy, either buying them at the shop or the best thing is to grow them at home, because you can just go out just outside your back door and pick them. And there's nothing fresher than just picking something and using them straight away. There's also other things that I do with herbs, and that is you can always, I bought peppermint tea because my daughter was over at Christmas and she bought the packet, but really in my cupboard I've actually got peppermint leaves that I've grown at the allotment and I dry, and then I can use them then to crumble up and to put in bags to use for tea later on. I'm going to look at what we're going to be planting today. So in front of me is a whole selection of seeds, and I thought that I would grow oregano because that's something that we can use a lot in food and cooking. I've got coriander, and I've also got basil, because when you go and buy a basil plant they're always so much more expensive in the shop, whereas it's so easy, and it really is easy to grow. So what I look at then is I've got my seeds here ready to plant. I've got some soil that I keep from year to year, and I enrich with some nourishment because today I'm going to be using a big pot, so therefore it's very wasteful to use John Innes, which is what I've got here, the seed sowing compost, to fill all of that when a seed is only going to go down to about there. So what I tend to do is to fill a big pot to about there with just regular potting compost that I reuse, and then the top will then have some John Innes seed sowing compost, which is totally different. I don't know whether the camera can see that, but it's just lovely. It's very fine for the seedlings, for the roots to go through. It's also, when you buy it fresh, it's slightly damp, which gives you the good conditions to grow some seeds. So I've got my pot with my just old soil that I've got from previous plants and planting, and then I just top it up with the fresh John Innes for the seeds compost, and then just pat it down slightly. Right, in my greenhouse I've got all sorts of sizes of pots, and all of these have either come from this is Homebase or Squires or any garden centre, because they will always have a recyclable area and you can go along there and pick up pots and they don't cost you anything, and I'm all for that because I don't like to spend money on things that if I can get it for free, to me it's all about recycling. If when I've finished it, it can go back into the recycling, but I tend to keep them because for potting on my seedlings, I'll use them again and again and again. You do have to keep them fairly clean. I do wash them after I've used them, so that any soil or any contaminants in the pots won't then transfer to my seedlings, because each seed packet costs you about £2. I mean, there's loads of seeds in there, but it's still money that I just hate to waste. So as I say, in their recycling they've got boxes and trays, and in the leaflet it will actually say on the website where you can get all these from. Okay, now Claire's just joined me now because this is the most important bit, and she's going to get her hands dirty.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to get them dirty now, hands on.
Because the seed compost is really, really wet and it's lovely. I can't wait to get down some of the allotment because this is where I spend most of my time, and I do enjoy it so much. First thing you've got to do is just decide which of the herbs are going to be in a pot and they will stay in that pot, or to decide whether they're going to need pricking out or potting on later. So I've divided these up. These ones will stay in the pot, and I'll explain as we're planting them, sowing the seeds rather, and these ones will be used later on to actually prick out and pot on.
So these ones we will grow, we will use, and they will continue to grow in these pots.
In
We
these
keep
pots,
using,
yeah.
etc. Okay.
And there'll be some that, like the mustard, will have to be sown again because they will come up and then that's the end of the crop. Things like basil, pinching out the tops, they will then become a more bushier plant.
Okay.
But there will come a time when they'll just give up.
Yes. Yes.
I've got mint here. Now, mint is one of the things that I actually go and buy the plants for, or I get given, actually, more to the truth. Because when you've got an allotment, or if you're out somewhere and you see, you go to shows or you go to the village hall for anything, there'll always be a plant store, and that's where you get all your information from and inspiration from. So chives again will stay in that pot until it's ready. Some of the seeds that we're planting here can also be put in the ground.
Okay.
The mint can go in the ground, but you restrict the roots, otherwise it spreads everywhere. I think I've written in the notes that are going to be on the website the fact that chives will actually carry on growing and their lumps will get bigger and bigger and bigger. So just make sure that when you're planting them outside, they've got a bit of room
Space.
around, so that you can do. And they'll just cut and come again, really. All of these are cut and come again.
Great.
So we'll make a start.
Okay.
First of all, before we do though, it's really important that this says basil. You actually do write a label for things, and you use a pen that says do not, that actually doesn't rub off or get watered away. Last year I planted my 50 tomato plants outside and I watered them and all the names fell off.
Oh.
So it was so I've learnt.
Yes.
Normally I use a pencil, but anything will do as long as it doesn't come off, and whichever surface you use. So here you go.
Okay.
Right, what would you like to start with?
Okay, let's start with the mints. Yes.
Okay. Now the actual seed compost, as I said before, has already got some moisture in it. So we're not going to be watering.
No, okay.
But there'll be a time when all you've got is dry soil. All right. You do have to water it, and then you put it to one side for the water to drain through, so that you're not swamping the seeds.
Right.
Because they don't need that much water when you're first starting to grow, but they need a little bit just to get them started. So off you go.
And when would you would water when the soil feels dry?
Feel dry,
right,
yes,
okay.
definitely.
Great.
Or the other thing that you can do, instead of watering from the top, you can put all the pots in a big open tray.
Yes.
And fill the tray halfway up with water, and then once the water has been absorbed by the pots, take them out.
Right.
Because you don't want anything sitting in water.
Okay.
Because the soil will go sour and bad, and it won't do.
So, how many seeds do we get in one of these packets?
Right. Loads.
Okay, we don't want them to go everywhere.
I'll just, if I use a pot, you can see how many. This is mint, which we're going to use. So, let's go to this.
There we go. No, I think that's okay. Oh, they're tiny.
Oh, okay. So you can see why mint then is a plant that I normally acquire from somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't know whether they're tiny, but these ones, which are the mustard ones, are slightly different.
So will we sprinkle these in?
And they're like that.
Yes.
So they're almost like the mustard seeds that you get.
Yes, yeah. I was cooking with some of those the other day.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, so what you want to do then, if I use the mustard seeds and you do the mint, and that is to pat down the soil at the top, just very lightly, don't compact it, just making it level. Okay, and then get your seeds, and only a few at a time.
Oh, maybe I'll put some on my hand.
Now these are the mint ones.
A few more?
I would use the whole packet for mint.
Then we might get some.
Yes, you might get some. That's true.
Sprinkle?
Okay, and then sprinkle them just over the top, like that. Okay.
Okay.
Lovely.
So you can't see mine on there
No.
because they're dark, but you can see those ones. Okay,
the mustard
great.
ones. So we had a few more mustard because they grow differently. And then again, using the potting compost or the seed compost, only a little sprinkling.
Too much?
Half of that.
Oh, too much.
Okay.
Isn't it good to learn? It's brilliant. Okay.
All right.
Just over the top.
Sprinkle it over the tops.
So why is there just a sprinkling and not?
Because the
We don't cover it
seedlings are
completely.
very, very fragile,
Right.
and they won't be able to push their way through.
Oh.
Some people use vermiculite, which is very, very light, but
So
I
you
don't.
should still be able to see, like your mustard seeds, you should still be able to see them.
You're supposed to really cover all of the seeds
Oh,
up,
okay.
because if it gets too sunny, then they'll burn in the sun.
Okay. So
the
light
seedlings,
sprinkling.
a right sprinkling, and then that's it. Then you find your label,
Okay. Mince. Yeah.
pop it in,
Yeah.
and that's that one done.
Okay. And how long will it be, do you think, that you might start seeing little sprouts coming through?
Depends on the plant, but normally 4 or 5 days. That's all.
And we could leave these on the windowsill
No,
or no?
I don't. Well, you can leave them on the windowsill, but when you've planted all of your plants, what I tend to do then is to get some some clear plastic. I use bags. I've got whole loads of stuff up in the stock in the top. So if you like use a plastic bag, just literally drape it over like that,
Right.
and then you keep it in a warm place for a week, and then come back and see.
Okay.
There's enough moisture in there to make the seedlings grow.
Okay,
You
so
don't
until
need
we start
any.
seeing them
So
grow, we
you'll
don't need to
see,
water them.
don't need to water them. Things. So that's what I do. The other thing that you can do is to use a proper propagator,
Yes.
but that costs money.
Yes.
Or you can use cling film. But the most important thing about cling film is not to use it like you would do cling film.
Okay.
All right, so if I can bring that over here, and I can just show you that all I've done literally is to drape it over,
Right.
and that's it.
So it can still get air
So
to
it can
it?
still get a bit of air to it, but
Okay.
that's it.
Okay.
So, and they go on a windowsill. They can go anywhere that's going to be warm with a little bit of natural light, so that they can then come up.
Okay. All these top tips, fabulous. So shall we get on with the rest of them?
Right, and we'll plant
Yes.
some others and come back in a minute.
Yes, brilliant. Thank you.
Right. The mint that you've just planted, obviously all the seeds have gone.
Yes.
But the mustard that I've planted, I've got loads of seeds. So those I turn over like that, and I keep for next time.
And where would you keep them? Is there a special place you need to keep them, or?
Just in a pot, anything will do.
they'll be fine.
Something like that will be
Yeah,
fine.
okay,
Anywhere
great.
that's going to be dry, because again, if you put them into wet, the water will then start sprouting the seeds,
Okay.
and that's not what you want to do. Going back to which plants you plant that can stay in the pots or not, things like mustard, if you look at how they grow, mustard just comes up once and that's it. Things like chives don't. They will grow and form a clump. Again, so the mustard seeds, once they've come up, week's time, I will then make another sowing of those.
Right.
So that, a week or 2 weeks apart, then you've got mustard seeds in a week's time or 2 weeks' time, and then in another 2 weeks you'll have some more mustard
Yes,
seeds.
yes.
And reuse, or actually what I don't reuse the seed compost because it's got nutrients in it, so therefore I always use fresh.
So that the new seedlings have got the new nutrients,
the
yes.
best start in life that you can give them.
Okay, and we've also here got, there's so many different varieties of what one would think was the same herb.
I know.
So here we've got red basil. So why are there so many different types?
Colour. If you're going to use things in salads, then you want to use something that's very colourful, and it's really lovely to sprinkle some purple basil on top.
Yeah.
It's also, I've got some different coloured and different tasting chives down here. I've got ordinary chives, but I've also got another form of chive, which is here. We've got dark opal in the basil, and that's not as dark as this one, which is called Red Reuben. So again, look and choose.
And is it really just what you like the look of, and then once you start doing it, what you like the taste of?
The taste of.
Okay.
If you buy Mediterranean basil, it has a slightly, sort of smoother, not such a pungent taste. And again, they go better in salads, and an ordinary basil will go into, spaghetti sauces and things like that if you want that strong taste. So over the time, you get to know which herbs you like and which ones go with certain things.
Yes.
And again, on the website, there's information about what goes with what.
Yes. Thank you. Good.
Just one thing, as I'm planting, I've just done basil in a pot, and it just reminded me that when you're opening a packet, inside will it be a packet like that with the seeds in there, because they're very tiny like the mint were. So this is the mint package, and you really need to make sure that you get them all out of a packet like that. There are other packets which are just open seeds, so you pour the seeds out into your palm of your hand, and there's still some in there and there's still some in here. So what I tend to do, again, sprinkle them slowly and also finely, is just to put them over the top of the seed compost, and then I've got some left and I don't want to lose all of those. So if you pour them back into the packet over where you've just planted them, it means that you don't, the ones that don't go into the packet, because you can never get them all in, go into the pot, and it doesn't matter if there's another few seeds, but it does mean that they're all contained into the one pot and they stay where they are.
Another top tip, Marilyn, thank you. Great.
Right, just a further thought as I'm planting these, because I do things automatically, and I forget that I need to share. So I've got a packet of coriander seeds that I bought from a seed merchant, but also in the cupboards I've got coriander seeds. Well, now you can use coriander seeds that you've bought from the shop, but I would always buy them fresh from a seed merchant, really, because you don't know how long these seeds have been kept, and they are for cooking, and they're dried, really dried out, I'm sure by now, so always use fresh. So we've sown our seeds, they're all germinating like mad, so in a couple of weeks' time you'll start to see some green tips emerge, and I don't know whether you're able to see them here, but these are seeds that I planted probably about 3 weeks ago, so they're coming up. And now's the time for when they have got 2 leaves, as these have. So be patient, because it might take more than 2 weeks to get 2 complete leaves at the top of something before you actually plant them on. And as I say, certain seeds and certain seedlings and plants and herbs don't pot on, but there will be others that will pot on. And as they all grow, on the website there will be like a little tip at the bottom saying my seeds have got 4 leaves now, and then we can start to pot on. So yours should be the same if you're planting them now. Right, so potting on then is literally you're moving something that is grown all together and taking up a little bit of a space into something that's going to then start to produce more solid roots, so that then you can plant them out in the garden or into a herb garden, or even into just a larger pot, depending how you want to see it, on your windowsill, out in the garden. As I say, I put mine in the allotment and they grow quite nicely there. This is something called a Jiffy Pot Dibber. And in a garden centre you'll find that you've got dibbers. They sell them in all sorts of different things. This is my dad's and I've got 3 of my dad's, and they're very precious to me, but because I've never needed to buy them. But I do know that you can buy a dibber. Now this dibber's got a very fine end and a very chunky end, and they're for specific purposes. So you've got your pot full of compost seedling compost. John Innes number 1 is what I use to put on things. The seed compost obviously has got nutrients for seedlings, and this has got nutrients to last 3 or 4 weeks for seedlings. So you use the thicker of the ends, push it right down into the middle, and it creates a large hole. Because don't forget, your compost should be damp. If it's not damp and you've got dry soil, which is like here, I will show you the difference between wet and dry. And that is, if I try and use that as dry soil for my seedlings, I push it down and it doesn't really make a hole because it just fills back in again. So although it looks as though it's good, it's not. So what I would do to a dry pot and dry anything is to water it pretty well. You can see the water's just sitting on the top, it's not going down. And then I will drain it either on the sink, or if I'm in the greenhouse, I'll have a pot like this, and I will let it drain and the water to sink through before I think about planting. But because this is damp soil, I know that the plants then will be fine. So you make your hole with the larger of the ends, then you use the narrow ends to tease the seedling up. I'm going to use this one because it's the nearest one for me. So the little end just goes in. I don't know whether you can actually see that. It goes in and just underneath and lifts the soil up, so that you then have a lump of soil with the seedlings there. And each of those, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in there, 6 pots, and that's my 6 seedlings. Now do be careful, because they're very, very fragile as seedlings, and I really treat my seedlings with a great deal of care because it's so easy to lose the root system. So I usually hold them by the leaf, and you can see there that there's a leaf, and then the roots are down here, and that just goes into the pot, if I can show it here, just like that. So the roots are in the soil, and I use my dibber just to pull the soil around it, and then just give it one press, and that's it, no more. Because you don't want to compact the soil round each of the seedlings' roots, because it won't grow. So again, make your hole with the larger end of the dibber. Find your seedling, which are all here, all in a little clump. So tease them apart very gently. Hold the top leaf into the soil, and then just push it very gently down, and that's it. And we'll do another one. Actually, we'll do another 2, because I don't like to leave seedlings out. So there's the little bit of soil clump, the roots are actually in there, so I keep it all together, and I just push it so that the leaves are on the top and the roots are down in the soil, and just press it gently, and that's done. And there's another one in here which I don't want to lose. If you can't do this in a rush, because it's not something that you'd want to lose, otherwise all of the sowing of the seeds, it's a waste of time, and you spend all that time growing. And that's why when I'm doing tomatoes, I can never throw tomato seedlings away, so I end up with about 100 tomato plants, so I give them away to friends and things like that. But that's the joy of growing and giving. So again, that one's got quite a large lump of soil, so I make a larger hole with my big end of the dibber. That just gently drops in, and then that's done. So that's 5 plants, just like that, out of that tiny bit in the corner there. And I've got lots more to go into the garden, and I'm out of breath, so it tells you how unfit I am, because I've not been down the allotment to dig, to bring a tray down. And I find this the most suitable thing to use for transplanting, or transporting rather, the seeds and the pots that I've put things in. So all the seedlings that you've got all go into here quite neatly. Jam them in, because that's what I tend to do. Make sure that they're nice and sturdy, and then you can take 6 pots and put them into a warm place and a light place so that they will grow. When the weather gets warmer, obviously you can leave them under cover outside. I've got or in the greenhouse if you're lucky enough to have one. If not, then the back bedrooms are really useful. Cover a desk or whatever with plastic and then paper, and then all these sit on because when the growing season really starts for me, which are tomatoes and cucumbers and aubergines and other things, my growing area is out in the conservatory on our dining room table, and it takes up the whole lot, and Phil gets quite cross sometimes, but when we have people to stay or people to come for a meal, it's quickly taken all outside, and then as soon as they've gone, it all comes back again. But so that's what I tend to do, and they'll grow and sprout quite happily on now. As we're in my kitchen and I've got all this to hand, you can actually see some of my produce that I do keep, because I try to be as self-sufficient as possible. So I grow runner beans, and I grow about 5 different types of beans, a lot of them to keep. So these are Belotti beans that I've kept. These are 2 years old now, and in the cupboard I've got ones that are 1 year old, and you can tell that these are older because they're darker in colour, but they're still as good. So you do what you normally do with pulses, and that's just to soak them in water overnight, or as long as they take them, and then you cook them without salt, otherwise they go tough and hard, and you don't want that. And then you can use them in salads or food, or I quite like having a tomato-based sauce on top of some Belotti beans, because that gives my nutty texture that I love. I'm all about textures and taste in my cooking, always. So and I love hot things with cold things, that discrepancy that comes with just home cooking, and I'm passionate about that as well. If I lived by myself, I would be total vegetarian or even vegan, but if you are, as you well know from Claire's website and also other information, you have to make sure that you get the balance of all of the different groups of foods to make sure that you're keeping healthy. So here is just a selection of the garlic that I've grown. Now these from last year, because my garlic I planted in November and won't be ready until May, June, July time. But these will last me as long as I need to have them. So, and I grow about 5 different types of garlic. So I've got the large garlic, which is brilliant, and I also grow ones that they call it hard neck garlics, and that's that. And I also grow things that are called soft neck garlic, because they all had different times of keeping. So some are doing really well, and some are obviously now starting to sprout, and that's because they've been kept too cold, but they will do in food. I use everything. So the other things that I do with my garlic, as you can see there, it's just a bottle of oil you buy from the supermarket. Take the top off, you take that ring off, and then you just cut up some fresh garlic, skin it obviously first, cut them into slithers, and then fill them up to about there with the garlic, and then you've got garlic oil, and all I do is add more garlic, more oil, and that will last me I don't know until I get my new season garlic really. So that was done last November, October time. The other thing I do, I've just done an article on chilies, and I use my chilies in oil as well. I break them open so that the seeds come out, and that is delicious as chili oil. So using chilies in oil and also dried. So these are the 2 plates that were are going to be on the website. So I've taken the chilies and I've cut them up into little bits, forgetting that they are still very potent, and rub my eyes, which didn't go down very well. And we talk about herbs. This is my bay leaves, and come from my bay tree outside in my front garden. And they keep 2-3 years perfectly okay, which I use in shepherd's pies and things like that, because I like the taste of bay leaves. But don't forget to take them out. Don't eat them, because they're not very palatable.